Okay, welcome back to another video by myself, Sal Cosentino. I'm your systems architect and trainer, uh, future CT trainer, Sal Cosentino. In today's class, we're going to be talking about how to create a MacBook uh, book as a VM, as a virtual machine. Uh, a lot of people can do have a virtual machine. I'm sorry, do have MacBooks on hand, and as we move on, you want to study in our, especially in Intune, all the devices that are available for you, especially within Intune, within your Azure environment. Companies have departments that have Mac OS or MacBooks or devices. So we tend to um, want to learn a little bit about that and how that works. And in this class, we're going to be talking about how to create a virtual machine. I unfortunately do not have a MacBook on hand today, um, but I'm going to create this live virtual machine using our Workstation Pro hypervisor. Uh, and kind of explain to you how that works and the architecture and whatnot. Um, Grab a snapshot of the picture, something I downloaded earlier on. Insert this picture into the background here. So I'm going to try this again. Pause that for now. Looks like it's taking up a lot of my tips. So I'm going to insert it again. Um, Another picture there. Let's try that. Something that I want to see a little bit. There you go. Okay, so um, again, you know, we're gonna be creating this. We're gonna be creating a MacBook, as I stated. Um, right. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do that. But I also want to talk about what a Macintosh operating system is and its timeline. We're dating back to 1985. Um, when the Finder was out. You know, back in 1985, and we're going all the way down to 2020, end of 2024, up until 2027. So if we look at the timeline on how it works and how you had the Finder, your OS one, and your Lisa MacWorks uh, back in 1985 and 19 in between 1985, well, 1984 1985 and halfway point of 19 to the end of 1986. And then we also have our Sun um, FL, right? So that was something that was introduced in our operating system versions, dating back from OS 1 to 19.92. And that ended in the beginning of 2000, well, the end of 2001. We also talk about, auxiliary AUX 1 and 2 and 3. We also talk about the plus versions, right? Plus 2, plus 1. Those are the different models that we had. And then slowly introduced the Macintosh um, Quadra in the 1990s, and then onto the Power Macintosh to the iMac in 1999, our G4 version in 2000, our G5 in 2004, which was about 4 years later. And from the G4 to the G5, we introduced the OS, Mac OS 10.0 to 10.2, so the Chia version, Puma and Jaguar. And then as we move on to 2006 midpoint, we introduce our Intel x86 architecture and our Intel architecture um, CPU. So that would basically, support our Tiger 10.4 Tiger and 10.5 Leopard. Then slowly in 2009, mid 2008, 2009, 10, and 11, we had our MacBook Air, right, which supported Leopard and Snow Leopard. Then we talk 2012, we have our 10.7 Lion and 10.8 Mountain Lion, which slowly was introduced on our Retina MacBook Pros, and then all the way to our MacBook M1s. We currently are on, our 15.x version, Sequa. That's our latest version. Um, a lot of companies are still on the Monterey or Ventura or Sonoma, where we are actually moving on to our Sequa version, which is our 15.x uh, application version number. Then we also start talking about we can also start talking about the development, and that development is not really our architecture, but it's our relationship between Unix systems and older Mac OSs, right? So when we look at the Mac OS version history, um, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see that. We talk about mixed shared sources, open source and closed sources. So as you can see in our diagram, in our colored diagram, we have our green, which is our open source, our blue, baby blue, which is our mixed shared source, and then our pink color, which is our closed source. So back in 1969, we had our unnamed PDP-7 operating system, right? Which was developed into our Unix version 1 to 4. And back in the 1970s, 1971 to 1973, we had our versions 1 to 4. Uh, and that would branch off to our PSW Unix. If we go down to 1979, where we had our BSD, right? And our Unix version 7, right? So that kind of, branched off into our Unix 32V, BSD, and then that slowly 10 years later developed into our Sun OS operating system for your Sun, and then our Xenix, uh, SCO Xenix, and System V um, source applications. The further down we go, the more you start seeing it develop, like our Unix-like systems, as we go down to 2023, we have our we still have our Linux, our Mac OS X, our Darwin versions, 1.2.1 to 23. I'll explain what Darwin version is. You'll see that the Darwin versions are still available. We're down to 24, right? So our Darwin version is that's our Mac OS 15 um, version and our release name. And then we have our Darwin version. That's a bit of information for you to kind of see and understand. We also talk about, when we talk about development, we talk about architecture and the different layers of architecture and how the different architectures developed within our Mac operating system, our MacBook operating system environment. So when we look at the different layers, we start talking about the Cocoa application, which was sort of an application that our application user interface, which responded to those events that the user would have and those manage those app behaviors. And again, when we had app kits like Siri, sharing, full screen mode, popovers, accessibility, scripts from Apple, notification center, spotlight. So those are the type of app kits that we had, where the application user interface responded to the user events, right? We also talk about, when we talk about the Coco application, we also talk about the media, right? And the plays, the records, the visual media, the rendering graphics, your 2D and 3D, right? And how that works in tandem. Um, we look at the different, foundation of the AV, our audio playbacks, and how, our Mac OS plays back audio, edits and analyzes recordings. It's core animation, type of 3D transformations and 2D transformation. We talk about, core audio, image, and text, and that's also with audio, using fast imaging processes. We talk about core text, which handles our Unicode fonts and texts, right? And how that handles our architecture handles text. We also talk about OpenAL, which delivers that 3D audio high performance playbacks in gaming, for you gamers out there in our media. We also talk about metal, media, where, portable 3D graphics, apps, games, and imaging functions and effects. Lastly, we also talk about quartz and what quartz is. Again, graphics rendering, for 2D content, event routing, et cetera, et cetera. Further down the list in architecture, we talk about the core services and the core OS, right? And how those fundamental services for our low-level networking communication, our data formatting, our string manipulation, and our automatic reference counting, right? We talk about address book, our database for contacts and groups, and that's part of our core services, right? Within the Mac OS architecture. We also talk about Accelerate. It's how it operates, how it improves performance in vector units, 3D graphic imaging, data parallelism. It all relates to hardware networking, right, as our core operating system, and how it runs high performance computing tasks on your CPU, which is your central processing unit, and your GPU, which is our graphical processing unit, right? We also talk about within our core services, we talk about security, user authentication, certificates, keys, keychain services, etc. We talk about quick looks. We talk about core data. We talk about core foundations, social, how it supports with networking services. And we also talk about WebKit, like our JavaScript cores or HTML content, et cetera, et cetera. This is a great architecture, to understand that. You want to take a look at that and read into that. I'll send you guys the link for that. um, you know when we talk about, our computing, our arbitration, when, it notifies us when a local or remote volume's mounted, or unmounted, or APFS, right? Our different volumes that we have, and I'll show you a little bit later on in terms of how volumes work, right? When we're installing them, our operating system on a Mac OS. We also talk about directory services, right? Like our printers, our computers, right? Our AD, our collected information about users, groups, our collected information about computers, printers in a network environment, right? Or sort of like our AD. We also talk about metal, right? As core OS, we makes the high performance parallel processing power for our graphical processing units, our GPUs. Those are available, for general computing, right? We also talk about, for a core OS, we talk about system config and how it provides access to networking, right? And it determines, how it reaches those different hosts remotely and notifies us of any changes in our network. So that's also important. We talk about, lastly, our main goal here is our kernel and device driver. And if I were to talk about this, I were to talk about this from here first and work our way up to Cocoa application, because our kernels and device drivers are what makes our library of that, our BSD libraries, are what makes those are those low level components which makes up our um, system and our support for file system security. So understanding what BSD is, file system, our NTFS, XFAT, AFP, right? S, which is what I talked about earlier with disks, and we'll show you that, and FAT and HFS plus, and then different file protocols. We'll also talk about Mac, MACH, Mac, and that's all about the multitasking of virtual memory, and then anything to do with real-time support. Uh, you know, Preemptive multitasking, which is a good word to use. Um, and then we also talk about networking, right? So that supports our networking kernel extensions, right? Also known as our NKAs, right? And creates those modules for network and configures protocol stacks, right? So if you know a little bit about that, you want to look into that and do some research on that and how that modifies our network traffic. So again, I'll send a link out to this. This is a great rendering of different architecture, right? And knowing about that. So moving on to the architecture, we also want to talk about the Mac OS um, version information, and that's also important when you're deciding and when you're reading up on the specific information. So we're dating back over here. It dates back to Rab City, a developer release, and that was back in. It was known as our Grail or Titan 1U. That was the code name. That was back in 1997. That almost lasted a year. Our Darwin version, there was no Darwin version just yet. It started again in the Mac OS as 1.3.1. Again, and then slowly developed and, you know, supported 32-bit Intel and PowerPC architectures, right? So understand that and had the 32-bit kernel. Um, so, when we talk about kernel, again, I think I spoke about it a little earlier on. We talked about how kernel is just a computer programming at this OS core, and it just generally has that complete control over everything in the system. So it's responsible for any conflicts between process, right? So that's just between preventing and any mitigation between those processes and those conflicts, right? It sort of acts as a portion of the operating system code um, that's always in the memory, and it just facilitates any interactions between those hardware and software components, right? So it does control the I/O, the input output, the memory, and the cryptography, right? Uh, so here's a little picture here, um, which is kind of cool. So when we talk about kernel, it sits in between the CPU, memory, and device, and the application levels, right? So the three levels, it's the second level in between that. Um, Again, it's loaded. Any code that's loaded in of the kernel that's loaded, it's separate area of memory. So it's protected by the application software and less critical parts of the operating system. So it sits in between that, and it communicates bidirectionally, right, in both ways. It performs the different tasks. It runs the processes. It manages the hardware devices, like your hard disks and all the interruption, and it's protected in that space, right? So, um, again, one of the most common systems that the kernel was loaded. One of is one of the first programs that's loaded after the bootloader. um, you know, and what is a bootloader? Understand what the bootloaders are. Uh, you know, it's just a computer program that's responsible for booting up the computer. And I think I showed you guys how to load into the bootloader or BIOS, right? So if we go here, we can. manage our firmware and power on the firmware, which would just power on to the firmware itself and would bootload everything that you needed to bootload, right? So that's also important. We also have our boot Windows manager. So if I double click on here, I have a Windows boot manager. So I can load the Windows boot manager. Right. And that's that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about loaders, kernels. We talked about bootloaders. Can also be two words. Right. So, understand that, when we talk about that, I'll send you guys some links on that for you guys to read. This is a great picture here, so I'm going to copy this image. This was perfect for kernel. Talk about that and how that works. Um, and we talked about bootloader. So here's a specific bootloader, right? For GNU, this is our Unix, and this is our Windows bootloader. So two different types of versions. Those are great to know what the differences are with that and how that works within both environments. So here's the boot manager. Hopefully I can bring you guys to that boot manager if I was able to. Double check, but this is one of the old boot manager versions of it. So if I go back to my machine, I did not shut this down. Shut down the guest. I don't need this machine. Um, Zoom, DC through here. I'm going to paste this. So this is you know, differences between the bootloaders. So we have our Windows, our GNU graphical, right, versus our Windows bootloader. Bootloader can be two words or one word. And if I go back here, I want a better picture. All right, so I'm gonna take this picture here. And this was used for Linux and Debian, for GNU Grub. This is our bootloader for that. Our version installs here, and this is QEMU. Um, and then hit the advanced options for that if you want. And so these are the two different versions, that are available for you to kind of compare, right? Again, I'll send you links on any information about kernels if you guys want to learn about kernels and bootloaders. For now, kind of, you know, our if we look at a picture of it, it's like it sits in between, bidirectional, between the CPU memory and device and our application. We also have our bootloaders, which is our GNU and our Windows bootloader. Okay, so let's go back to our documentation here. If we look at the different versions, again, from Rhapsody, 1997, we scroll down to our Mac OS X, starting with our public or developer. mode and Kodiak, or Hera, sorry, which is our internal code name for that Mac OS. That's what they use. And then scroll all the way down to uh, Mac OS X um, 10.11, El Captain. And that was Darwin number 15, which was a 64-bit Intel processor and supported applications with 32-bit PowerPC. So, very important to understand. And then we then started out with our Mac OS 10.12, right? Sierra. That was back in 2016. And we're now in 2014, where we're using Sequoia, right? So Sequoia National Forest. These are all, areas within California where uh, you know, they codenamed after these. So the Sequoia National Forest, if we click on that, you know, this is one of the forests located in the Sierra Nevada mountains of California. So they name it after geographical um, areas, right? And again, this giant sequoia is just a national forest. It's located within Fresno, Kern, and Tulare, California, U.S. So, if you want to learn about that, you're more than welcome to click on the pictures here and Google some pictures if you'd like and learn about the different history of our national forests and geographical areas um, for that. So the further again right now, I think from the 20, there's different versions that were updated, and in October our versions are usually released to the public um, for Mac OS. So we're at different versions right now, but in the 3rd of October, which is about 25 days ago, about almost 3 weeks ago, they released the most recent version of that 15.0.1 24A348. This is the latest preview version, right? So, you know, that's the latest that they have. Um, so the Power Mac G5 had special Jaguar builds. This is just stuff that I want you guys to kind of understand when we look back at uh, the timeline, right? Um, Tiger did not support 64-bit GUI applications. This is just on the side, and only 64-bit CLI applications. The 32-bit PowerPC apps were supported on Intel processors with Rosetta. 64-bit Intel applications are supported on Apple Silicon Macs with Rosetta 2. And however, those Intel-based Macs are unable to run ARM-based apps for iOS and iPad iOS apps, right? When we look at our different, again, histories, our last four versions from 12 down to 15, again, it was announced 2021. We've already talked about that. Um, our last version 15 was announced on June 10th of 2024, which was almost about 4 months ago during the WTC keynote speech. And again, this was released almost a month ago on September 16th, month and just a bit. So let's talk about how to download and install the MacBook OS. There's four different ways, multiple ways of downloading it. You can download it and install the you can download and install the Mac OS through the Apple website. You can sign into your Apple developer program site if you have one. And I'll show you guys how to do that. You can download it through the Apple Store, or you can create a bootable installer. I've already downloaded it. These are some sites that I'll post these sites out to you again. There's multiple sites out there that have the ISO for you already created, but you can create your package or DMG and convert it into an ISO. It's totally up to you. You know, but virtually, these are the two main websites I've seen people use and more popular that I've seen people use when installing it. Just remember to, uh, you know, make sure this is a real file, and um, run the antivirus software on it before you download it or open it and install it, right? So again, be mindful of how you use it and how you don't use it. There's also one site that it's pretty cool too. It's called archive.org. That's another site that I want you guys to kind of look at. These are pretty good. Um, third, right? Right. So these are the three different sites. I've already gone ahead and downloaded it. Um, Again, you can create a bootable installer with Mac OS. Here are the instructions. I'll show you guys a few of them just to kind of walk you through each version of it, and then we'll go ahead and build our system machine. And again, you could use any hypervisor like Oracle, VirtualBox Manager, or you can use Workstation Pro, and then that's what is my tool of choice in my toolbox. I love this tool. So I've used this tool for many, many, many years. It is also compatible with the Oracle if you want to use it, or you can use your ESXi or Hyper-V's. Uh, Again, if you're interested in using vSphere client or Hyper-V or your ESXi client machine, I showed you guys in an earlier video on how to do that. Please follow along with that and um, let me know how that goes. There's videos on how to do that. Um, so my tool of choice is the Workstation Pro 16 and 17. Again, it's totally up to you. Um, you know, there's also videos on how to download and install the free version of um, your Workstation Pro 17 using the Broadcom.com system. I have a video on how to create an account and how to download them and where to download them if you'd want to as well. Um, so we download. How do we download and install the Mac OS, right? So like I said, as we um, get a diagram out here, right? And let me see if I can find a Mac laptop image. See if I can find a picture of a MacBook image laptop. Okay. I'm gonna click, right click on that, paste that. So that's our link that I want to show you guys next. All right. So I'm gonna find a picture of a MacBook here. There's many MacBooks here. Okay. I'm going to, I want to save. Okay. Save the image. So I'm going to take the image, the MacBook here. I'm going to take this one. Paste this here. Here's my MacBook. So we talk about our on MacBook OS. When we download it, I'll send you guys the links on how to do that as well. When we download and install current or previous versions of the Mac operating system on compatible Mac computers, there's different ways we can do it. We can use the software update. We can use the Mac OS recovery. Use the App Store web browser version or bootable installer, right? So there's different ways of doing it. Again, I've seen the fastest way and easiest way to get the Mac OS updates are done through um, it uses less storage space, right? Are done through upgrades and updates. Again, it just shows only the software that's compatible with your Mac, right? We can, you know, we can do that and follow the prerequisites and how to do it. This will show you how to do it. Um, once we have it, I'll bring you the guys to that area where we can, you know, show you how to update the Mac OS if I can. I'm going to download the Ventura version and I'm going to use the operating Mac OS to upgrade it and show you the different ways and methods to do that, right? So I'm going to also create a snapshot of that computer so I can show you the different versions on how to do that if I have some time. Or create another video. Looks like we're past an hour here. So I'll try to, create this as quick as possible. I want to create the machine first and then probably have a second video on how to, create the updates. Okay. So if we go back to my diagram here and go to, um, and I will, okay, and go back to here. Okay. So we'll talk about that in a later version. Um, but again, those are the different ways. You can also sign into your Apple developer program. So again, I'm here, the Apple developer. You can download the beta software or preview seed or release candidates. Is just a pre-release version of the software that's still under the development. It's just not released to the public. Again, you can install the beta software. You can read that. Then appledeveloper.com. If you haven't created an account, please feel free to create an account if you'd like. And again, these are just for devices. Again, the RC um, version 2 is just a version that's updated for Mac computers with the Apple Silicon. And again, these are just 13.4 Ventura later, so it shows you how to do that. And that was just released about 4 days ago with build 24B83. So these Mac computers with Apple Silicon, all right, you just got to download it and it takes it from the updates. If you click on that, it'll just download the update for you, Universal Mac update for that. And then you can go and install the IPSW uh, file, right? IPSW file. That's about 14.7 gigs. Close that. If you want to install the beta software, just click on that. And again, the lower we go down our beta 2, same thing. Mac computers with Apple Silicon. That was the 23rd of October, and its build is 24C 5057P. If you want to know the release notes in your developer, you can read up on the release notes and explain to you the overviews, the activity kits, Swift UIs, virtualization issues. VMs are not available, why they're not available. They know that why it's not available to download, so you won't be able to download that yet because these haven't been resolved. They're just known issues. Widget kits, like resolved issues, and different RC release notes and different release notes for you to read. And the further down you go, the more information and issues occur. They're either resolved or deprecated. Resolved issues, features, resolved issues for camera within the SACWA 15. So using presenter overlay in full size mode with a single shared reaction at the same time can glitch. And again, these are the ticket numbers that are there, or um, the library ticket numbers, I call them. So again, different issues, known issues, features you will find here. So before downloading, it's always good to come in and read all this. That way you know what issues have been resolved and what isn't resolved yet. Especially if you are on an older version like 14.6 and you're still like, oh, I can't is my accessibility resolved? Oh, okay, so now then fire and night was resolved where a user wasn't able to play newly added background sounds, right? So that's now resolved in the 15 SQL release notes. Interesting to note, again, for developers, you can download that file and um, you know read up on the different betas and whatnot. So you can download the beta access utility from the download page, right? And then you can open and then follow the instructions. When the developer is available, you can install the software updates. You can just click on that and you can download the beta updates for that. What else? So there's also the Apple Store, which is the obvious route to go to. A lot of people, if you have a Mac device, you can use the Apple Store and just upload it from there. I'll show you guys how to do that. Or through a bootable installer, right? Which is, you can create the bootable installer for Mac OS. Pretty easy. It's very straightforward. You can download a full Mac OS installer from Apple, right? So this will show you how to download that, right? So download a Mac that's compatible for your downloading. So if you want to get a full Mac OS installer, you can download it from the App Store or web browser using the links provided here. So again, previous to our last conversation here. Right? So you can do that. So yeah, just do that and click on how to download that, and then you can use the App Store, right? If you click on the App Store, and you can click on, let's say Ventura 13. Now, if my computer was an app, I can download it. If not, I'll show you guys how to do that once it's installed as well in another video. Again, I should be able to download it from the apps, apple.com, right? But in this case, this machine is not an Apple, so I won't be able to do it. You can use a web browser for older versions. So if I want to download it from their servers, again, 10.12, I should be able to download the DMG file, right? But that's only on a Mac device. So double click the DMG file to open it and then see the package file within it. Once we click on it, we can follow the package and files instructions to install. So in this one, we're not going to do that. We're just going to use the iOS version. And I showed you the 3 websites to download it, which are here. These are the 3 websites. I'll post them. I've seen a lot of people use these. You know, they're able to manipulate the DMG file into an iOS. You can also do that too if you have that. You can create the ISO image already for your DMG, and there's code in order to do that as well too. So we wanna introduce. So our main goal here is to introduce our our Mac device, uh, our Mac device onto an on premises, right? So you know, in order for us to do that, we can, create the hybrid join device, or again, we can also, you know, synchronize this device to the cloud. So when we synchronize this device to the cloud, um, we need to synchronize this device to the cloud. So in order for us to synchronize this device from the cloud, we're going to need something called Intune Company Portal App. And that'll kind of, again, that'll kind of um, log in and register the device or enroll the device. And I think we spoke about the different um, you know enrollments, right? So we have our Azure. Here, let me populate this here. Show you guys here. Let me download. I'll go to intra. I'm gonna download that, and then remember to use your authenticator app. So once I have my authenticator app, um, it'll ask me to use that number. Type in that number. I'll say yes. Right, and then confirm that. And it should move me to the next round. So again, this is a SaaS product. Software as a service. It needs a subscription in order for this to work, for the SaaS product to work. Um, you know, so when our devices are all devices. So the join types. Okay, so they're either intra joint or they're intra registered. For BYOD, we usually intra register those devices, right? And then we have our intra joined, which is our corporate devices that are intra joined. We typically intra join corporate devices and have the user sign in or the owner sign in of that. And we also um, have our MDM solution and attached to that. Let me open up our Intune here, Microsoft.com. And I'm going to log into Intune.Microsoft.com. All right. So once I've logged into my Intune.Microsoft.com, um, we have our multiple devices, and as you can see, Chrome OS is not there anymore. But again, um, it is still available. We can use the connector to install that. I could show you guys in another video on how to do that. For Chrome OS, right? We can connect it here, right? Um, which is sort of what I did already. Uh, I just tested that out. Let me delete that. I'm gonna get some more. Just gonna disconnect. But yeah, this is where you would do that. They removed it. There's another way to do it now. Um, you know, we can use the Google Admin Console for that. That's something that I was doing and it worked. But you need your Chrome OS. You need your Google Admin in order for that to work. And again, there's another video that I showed on how to get your Google Admin Center for free if you want, so that you're able to test that. So if we go back to our devices here, we have all devices here. We have our co-managed devices and we have our corporate devices and our personal BYOD devices and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So when we are talking about the different platforms, we also talk about Mac OS and again, Mac OS devices and how can we enroll those devices, right? And how we can set up the different push certificates for that and different bulk enrollment methods using Apple Configurator, right? So you need to download that and manage Apple Configurator enrollment. Um, we could talk about that too, actually, and try to install that once we have our VM running. We also talk about our enrollment types, right? Our platform restrictions for that, and again, in in Mac OS, right, and within Intune, we can create those different profiles for that. Again, I'll show you guys how to do that too in another video. But again, right, we wanna be able to know how to download and install that Mac OS. I've gone ahead and downloaded it already. Um, right? And we're gonna now build this system together, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and click File and then New Virtual Machine. Make this a little bit smaller. Let's do this side by side profile here, side by side. Okay, so I'm gonna go File. I'm gonna go New Virtual Machine. I'm gonna go Typical. Right? I'm not going to install the operating system later. It will fill, right? So we don't typically use this option, install this file image, right? So I typically install the operating system later, and you'll see why. Even if you try it, it won't work. So you have to select this. And this virtual machine is you want to create the bare metal machine with a blank hard disk first. Um, this isn't a template, right? So, um, we don't have, we're not just going to use the iOS to install with no disk. So we want to create that disk first. So we'll select the I will install the operating system later and then select next. Now, as you can see, we do not have the Apple Mac OS guest operating system version, and we need to install that. So in order to do that, we need to download the unlocker folder. Right? It's an exe folder script from GitHub, and I'm going to show you guys where to do that. I've gone ahead and done that already. I'm going to give you guys this link, and then underneath code, you're going to download the zip file, right? And then we're going to download the zip file. I've already done this, so I'm going to open up the location that it's in, and I'm going to open up this folder and I want to scroll down all the way to win install command. And I want to run this as administrator. So I'm going to right click and run as admin. So this will now run the parameters, right? And you'll see the script. You can see the script right in live time if you go to edit, right? And this will show you the script, the command script for that and what it does. And you can read up into that and the different services that it runs. And again, it copies the paths and where it backs it up to and gets the VMware tools and runs the Python script for that, for the different Darwin versions, you know, and this will kind of show you what parameters and for this specific system itself. So this looks like it's up to date version 3.0.2. So this is the version that we're going to be using today. Um, and I think the command was already run. I think it was already run. That's okay. We weren't able to see it. So let's go ahead and right click and run it again. I'm going to want to see this again. So there we go. It's going to start the services, right? And we should now be able to close and open this and see what happens. Close, close it, close this, close this. I'm gonna close, exit, right? And then I'm going to suspend those machines. As I close it, I'll reopen it again. One sec. That's happening as that's happening. Okay. Uh, close. Close the program. Force it. It just stalled on me there for a second. So there we go. So it's done. Okay, so I just want to make sure that the VMware is not running here in task. Let's see. All right, so that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and run it again. Stop. I'm going to run the right, so let's see if I can find the VMware workstation. VMware. There we go. Run it. We run it again. I want to create a let's see, I'm going to create a shortcut here. Okay. So I'm going to create a shortcut. This is the location. I'm going to put next. Properties. I'm going to rename it to VMware VXC and apply. I should open that up now. Okay, cool. All right, so created that. Let's see if I can get the icon for that. Okay. There's what. Okay, so I've opened up this machine here, and I'm going to go back to the window here, and I want to do the side profile here, right? And I'm going to open up my machine here, and I'm going to go File. I'm going to go New Virtual Machine, and hopefully, once we run it, we should be able to see that. Next. New, new, So it looks like Python. Uh, huh, Python used to be installed. Okay, so I will. Um, so for this, get the tool release action. You'll get the bundle of Python avoids the last one in Python. Sorry. Um, so this is designed for player 17. Mm, okay. I'm gonna download. Okay, so I need to download Python. So I'm gonna download um the 64-bit release for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. That resolves my issue here. Um, so let's go ahead and do that. Install that. All right. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and install that version for Windows. Um, Python for Windows. That's the site. So I've gone ahead and I'm going ahead and installing that on my machine, and I'm going to try to run it again. It's just going to go ahead and install that. Again, I want to go ahead and close that. Okay, so let's go ahead and try now. I want to see what happens now. I should be able to run it, hopefully. Um, let's run this as admin now, see what happens to the script. So I'm going to right click again. See the error here. So Python was not found. Run without arguments to install from me. Let's take a look at this error. What does that mean? Okay, so we'll have to uh, turn off. Okay, check the path environment variable. I have to check the path environment variable. Systemdn.cpl. And then I'll also have to go to environment variable. Okay, that's good. And I will have to type this in. Start. Turn off and turn off that. What I did, I'm gonna do that. Okay. And then I think that's it for now. Okay, so let's do that now. Let's do this again. I'm going to close, which is what I did. Okay, close it. So I'm going to go ahead and rerun this again. After taking, oh, there we go. Okay, so now that should work. I've ran that. Okay. And that's done. I've done that. Close that. Like that. Let's open this again. Okay, fine. New virtual machine. Next. Next. And still. Okay. I'll try. Let's try now. Click. There you go. I want it right there. Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to create a second video for this. I need to reboot the machine. Again, thanks for joining. I'll be right back.